is to create a new variable. I'm going to rewrite this program, and I'm going to say this is equal to count plus 1. And the reason I'm going to do that, and I'm going to set count here, count is equal to 0. The reason I'm going to do that is because my claim was that this do something loop gets evaluated however many times. Well, if we want to figure out how many times this do something gets evaluated, we can actually use the program to tell us, instead of doing the math where we multiply the number of values in here times the number of values in here. And you can imagine if this was something like 1 to 113 all the way up to 113, we would have to figure out how many numbers this expands to and multiply that by 3 to figure out how many times this statement is going to get evaluated. Instead of doing that, we can just have the program actually do the counting for us. So think about what's going to happen here. Let's unravel this loop. Well, instead of evaluating this statement, we're going to be doing count is equal to this, count is equal to this, count is equal to this, and then I should go and replace all of the other statements with A with this count. So let's look at the equivalent program. Count is equal to 0, and so this block is identical to this block all the way down to the bottom, provided that I make the corrections for what A are. I'm not going to do that because we just want to use this expanded notation just to get a feel for what's happening. So if count is equal to 0, I is equal to 1, j is equal to 1, and then here I say count is equal to count plus 1. I'm assigning count the value of whatever count is now. To figure out what it is, I look up, look up, look up, and here I say I've assigned it 0, and I've added 1 to it. So now count is equal to 1. Get to this statement, I'm going to reassign the variable count to a new value of whatever count is now, and I just said the last value was 1, so now it's going to be 2. So it looks like this little trick, this little command, is going to automatically count however many times do something is evaluated, because we're setting do something to be just a counter. And so again, my claim is that this is identical to this all the way down to the bottom, again provided I substitute out all of the lines with A with count. So let me do that. And first let me run this program, and let me do a clear here at the very top. I'm going to do clear, and then I'm going to delete this temporarily, and I'm going to execute this program. So I save it, and when I save it, that star goes away, and I'm going to execute all of the commands in untitled. First I'm going to clear the console, and then I will do untitled, and sure enough, it tells me what count is, 9 times. And now let's do the other program. So I'm going to get rid of this and replace it with the longhand value. And to make it equivalent, I put a clear here. I save and clear the console, and then I type in untitled and hit enter, and it does exactly the same thing. Almost exactly the same thing. The difference is that when I ran the other program, I had a semicolon after the count is equal to 0. So the thing here is that the program can be doing the same computation, but sometimes if you leave off semicolons in certain places, what you see on the screen will be different from one case to the next. But what's important is what the computation is, what's happening in terms of the computation. So in other words, I can do this, and I could run it, but at the very end, so here at the very end, previously I had count is equal to 9, clear the console, and now I'm going to run untitled. Let me make sure I save it. I'm going to run untitled, and it's going to execute, and it told me count is equal to 6, so apparently I left off semicolon at the 6th point, clear the console, untitled. Now it doesn't do anything because I have semicolons at the end of every line. However, it has executed because if I interrogate it by typing in the name of a variable, and it says count has a value and it's 9. So the key here is that when you're writing equivalent programs, sometimes when I write them and when you write them, they will appear to be doing different things, and the reason sometimes is because you have not put semicolons in the equivalent locations. That's not something you really need to worry about too much. What is most important is to be able to go from this notation back to this notation. So being able to switch back and forth.